Hi everyone, welcome to the 8 o'clock show. We have a very special guest today. But before we start the program, I just want to take a minute and pay respects to Irfan Khan, a great actor who passed away today. And we had the opportunity to work with him, host him at INK. He was amazing, great sense of humor. And Irfan was somebody who was well-traveled, well-read, and was very interested in intellectual dialogues, and none of it was a facade. He was a truly great human being. The one thing I remember about him is that he still talked about when he was in National School of Drama, one of his teachers there now works in textiles and, preserving the local dyes, local color, vegetable dyes and things like that. And he told me that anytime he wants to raise money, I'll be there to do anything for him. So, he's somebody who remembered his relationships, who valued his past relationships. I met him through filmmaker and INK fellow Anand Gandhi, and I'm really, really grateful for the relationship we had, and I had time to spend with him and his wife, and really wonderful human beings. So I just wanted to take a moment and pay respects and remember Irfan Khan for the wonderful person he was. And so with that, continuation, one of the things that, as I was saying, Irfan was great about is that humility, that simplicity. No matter how great he is, his feet were very grounded, and he was very interested in a lot of different things. So that's the kind of people we like, are people who are very grounded, who are very interesting, and who are contributing a lot to this world. So our speaker today is someone who has founded a company. I actually live in a community where we use MyGate. It's an application using which you can have people come in and go out, and a lot of things that are great for a community, and I'll have him talk a little bit about it. So Vijay Arisetty is one of the founders of MyGate, and he has a fantastic story. Before inviting him, I just want to tell you the story of how MyGate got funded. My friend Sanjay Swami and his team members told this story, which we thought was very, very funny, which is, they were Prime Ventures, that's their company, and they were studying different companies, and they came across MyGate, and they thought it was a great company, and they called the company and said that, hey, we are interested in investing in you. And can you imagine when you're a startup raising money, a VC calling you and saying, I'd like to invest money, and they thought it was a prank call and hung up. And after a while, they thought maybe there is some truth to it, and they called Prime Ventures, and it turned out to be a real call. And Prime Ventures is one of the investors in MyGate. So it's a fantastic story of when there's merit, I think, the resources come to you. With that, I would like to bring Vijay Arisetty. Hey, Vijay.
Hi, Lakshmi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I was just telling everybody the story of how you guys got a call from Prime Ventures, and you thought it was a prank call, and didn't believe that a VC would be calling you to give funding. So I was just sharing with everybody that story to introduce you.
Yeah. That was an interesting story for us as well. Yeah.
So Vijay, you are the founder of MyGate, and I thought what we would do, and you have a very colorful life also. So I thought first we'll talk a little bit about MyGate, and I'd love to talk a little bit about what got you to MyGate. Obviously yours is an app that is used by communities across India. So tell us a little bit about what was the thought behind starting it, and how many cities are you, how many communities, how many people do you cover today? Just tell us a little bit of a background of MyGate.
Yeah. So a better half of my life I spent in the Indian Air Force. So, I used to stay in the cantonment areas earlier, right? And
Uh-huh.
uh, and most of these, right? And I was also born and brought up in a township, which was again, had a very gated community feeling, right? And all these
Which
townships.
township was it, Vijay?
So my father was working for HAL, and
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and the plant was
In
in Orissa, not in Bangalore, in Orissa, and
Oh, I see.
yeah, and there was nothing around it, so it was again a gated community, a township, and every entry and
Yeah.
exit used to get regulated there, right? So all my
Yeah.
life I spent in those kind of places, and the security
Mm-hmm.
was an implicit thing that used to be the outcome of such kind of communities, right? And
Right.
when I came out from Air Force to the civil world, the biggest concern for my family was, we were all in such a guarded communities, and we were very sure that no stranger is, going to come, and my daughter is going to be safe, and all those things are all getting compromised, right? And then
Yeah.
we decided to go to a gated community in Bangalore, right, which probably would
Mm-hmm.
solve all those problems for us, right? And
Yeah.
the rentals were very high, and expectation was that I would get the kind of security that I was getting it in the armed forces, right? But
Yeah.
when we hit the ground, the reality
Mm-hmm.
was way different than the expectation, right?
Mm-hmm.
and and then we also started seeing in 2015 there's a lot of commerce that is coming to our doorsteps, right? And I realized
Mm-hmm.
that as it is, the security is so broken, and now more number of
Correct.
external people are coming in. So,
Mm-hmm.
the sense of security that a person is getting in gated communities was getting compromised, right? And then that is
Correct.
the time we thought that why don't we step into it? All the industries in India were going through some of the other kind of tech disruption. If you see, fintech had its own journey. Then
Right.
logistics got started getting technology. Everything was a technology layer was getting added to any and every industry in India, right? And
Mm-hmm.
somehow everybody forgot about the security space, although it's one of the
Yeah.
biggest industry in India, and close to 8 million people are employed in security industry. There is no
Mm-hmm.
technology to power this industry, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think overall the macro and the micro situations, like the problem statement was getting amplified, and there was no technology
Mm.
to such a big industry. And we said that why don't we build something for the technology for security guards so that they can,
Uh-huh.
deliver what they're expected to deliver in a very seamless manner, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how MyGate was born.
Yeah, yeah, and also, the key word there is community, right, Vijay? You
Yes.
work with the communities. So, just tell me, how many communities are you part of today? Today, in how many cities and how many communities?
So we are in 14 cities, right? And we manage around 8,000 plus gated communities, and which are hosting close to 1.6 million homes, right?
6 million homes.
1.6 million homes. Yeah.
1.6 million homes. Okay. So tell me a little bit about, there is, talking about data observations, various things. What are some of the things you observe about communities? I mean, are they, in what way do they differ across cities, across geographies? I mean, is there anything interesting that you've observed in managing so many communities?
So, see, we
I
don't
mean, of
get
course, you're
into
personally not managing it, but,
no, we don't get into those specifics, right? The reason
right,
is,
yeah, right.
the data is very private to the,
Of
RWN end
course, yeah.
user, right? So we don't delve into
Mm-hmm.
those. But at a high level, we know that, you know,
Right.
uh, we used to manage close to 90 million visitors validations on a monthly basis,
Mm.
right? Across this 1.56
Okay.
million
Yeah.
homes, we used to validate close to 90 million visitors, right? And these used
Mm-hmm.
to be like, somebody like, we call this ABCD, which is your I, buy, cook, driver. And then
Mm-hmm.
EFG is, electronics, fashion, and electronics, food, and gadi, right? Like whether it's
Uh-huh.
an Amazon, Flipkart, or Swiggy, Zomato, or Dunzo, or Uber, Ola, right? And then a lot of
Never
local.
heard this. I've never heard this for ABCD. I mean, usually in America, ABCD was American born confused AC, but I've never heard.
So
By car driver. I've never heard this before.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah,
that's the word like code we use in
yeah,
MyGate, right? So we deal with
yeah,
ABCD in a different way, EFG in a different way, and the local
yeah,
services in a different way. So that a
yeah.
backend from a technology perspective, there is a lot of differences which
Okay, we're having a little bit of a problem with the internet connection. You're back. Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
so,
We lost.
yes.
So, yeah. So you're saying from a 30,000 foot level, you look at how many visitors who come, the types of
Yes.
visitors.
Correct.
Yeah.
And most of the, we observe the high peak traffic from morning 5 a.m. till 10 a.m. And then there is
Uh-huh.
a, mild traffic through the rest of the day. And again, the traffic picks up from, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Right. So
Uh-huh.
those are the general trends, I can talk about. Right? Yeah.
Right, of course. And also during the time of COVID, obviously, everything has been shut down. And it's interesting because I also live in one of the communities. We use MyGate, and
Awesome.
it's sort of it's interesting. Like when people say stick to your home in a community, the home becomes the community. So it's at
Yes.
least a running in the community or walking occasionally in the community or whatever. And so community has a little bigger definition of home. So tell me a little bit about, are you seeing any differences in behavior or anything during the time of COVID in communities?
Yes,
I mean,
yes. We
obviously,
see
less traffic.
we see a huge difference, right? So earlier, if you
Yeah,
see people, the MyGate was used to validate people to, go through the gate to the resident's home, right?
yeah,
Now what is happening is that entire transaction is happening at the gate, right?
right.
The person from outside comes to the gate and the resident comes to the gate, right? And the exchange is
Uh-huh.
happening at the gate, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
actually, with COVID, we evolved a system to make sure that that exchange at the gate is becoming more easier, right? So
Mm,
we have built modules for basically, contactless delivery, right? In a way that the delivery boy comes, does one entry on the MyGate system and leaves the parcel and goes. And it's a
mm,
mandatory thing. He has to leave the parcel there and go. And the resident
right.
gets some kind of information and he comes and picks it up from there and completes the loop. So he doesn't get to even see the security guard. The systems are built that way, right? So
Right, right,
yeah. But for the ABCD population, that
right.
Aya, Baya, cook, and driver, I think that is completely stopped at this point in time, right?
Correct,
So there is
correct.
no
Yeah.
movement happening.
Right, right. So, what are some of the other things you guys have done technically? What are some of the changes you have made? Because I think you had interesting partnerships, new partnerships you have during COVID. So, tell us a little bit about what are some of the new partnerships you have.
So I think some of the partnerships that we have done is, we have integrated with some of the, telemedicine companies early, during the COVID times, so that, people, if they have some kind of consultation that needs to be done, whether related to COVID or non-COVID related, and since they will
Mhm.
not be able to go to, hospitals and doctors, so we have partnered with some of our, telemedicine companies to make sure that you can get the consultation from home through MyGate app, right? And
Ah,
that's one. Second thing, what we have coordinated with some of the e-commerce companies is how can we help our gated communities or the residents of our gated communities to order on some of these essential goods, which
mhm.
we will make sure that they get a priority delivery, right?
Okay.
So we were able to bulk orders, right? So for example, we used to send communities a message well in advance so that all of them order it together, and we were making sure that the consignment comes to the gate at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
they were able to give much more reliable services, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
during these days, you have to wait for slots of these e-commerce companies to open up so that you can order. So what we have
Yeah.
done is we have tied up exclusive with some of the e-commerce companies to provide that to our communities, right? We
Uh-huh.
also we also, since this is a first time people are meeting our experience with such kind of pandemic, right? And given my experience, while I was at the Air Force, I participated in multiple disaster relief operations like earthquakes
Mm-hmm.
and flood reliefs, and I've seen how situations evolve when this kind of isolation happens, right? When
Right.
when floods happen, a particular area is maroon, and completely they're cut off from the rest of the world, right? And
Yeah.
how during those times, what are the things that are likely to happen? How residents are likely to react? How people are likely to react? And what are the things that needs to be done, right? So I think even before the lockdown was announced, right, we put a very, very comprehensive document and we have given it to our gated communities, the management committees of gated communities, step by step in terms of what all things you need to do, right? On day one, close swimming pools, close the clubhouses and, lifts, what are things you need to do on a frequent basis. You need to stop these people from coming. You need to do this. You need to give them advance. You need to stock up, probably diesel for your DC generator sets. So we have given a step-by-step document to, all the management committees to cope up with this situation, right? And most of them have followed that in letter and spirit and made sure that the required amount of social distancing is being maintained in gated communities.
Yeah. So you're talking about disaster relief, etc. So that takes kind of a natural transition to your past. You said when you were in the Air Force, you were a helicopter pilot for many years, with about 10. And so you went to National Defense Academy and you're a helicopter pilot. So tell us a little bit about you grew up in HAL. So did you always know that that's the path you wanted to take, or tell us about how that evolved for you?
Yeah, so I think when I was at HAL, right, and Air Force used to be the customers of, uh, or they used to be the buyers, right? And I used to see my parents and everybody around me, whenever, Air Force people used to come, right?
Yeah.
There's a huge, like, roads were painted, footpaths were painted, and, welcome this, welcome that. So I always thought that these guys are heroes, right? And in my world, they were the people I had to look up to, right? Because everybody around me was looking up to them. And that's how I got severely motivated that I should join the Air Force, right? And that's how, I chose the path of National Defense Academy and, went into Air Force, and especially, I wanted to fly as well, right? And so all those things got materialized through, by seeing a lot of Air Force people around me.
Yeah. So did you train at the Pune Institute, at the Pune facility of NDA?
The NDA is only at Pune, nowhere else. There's only one place. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I visited that like almost 7-8 years ago. And it's such a beautiful space. It just feels like you're somehow in some other part of the world. And they took me to the lunchroom and they said, you got to see how it looks like before everybody comes in. It's like this perfect order.
It can host 3,000 people at the same time, and completely air conditioned, right?
Yeah.
And everything is a drill there, right? Say, if you see the way people have lunch and dinner in the armed forces, especially in such kind of training institutes, it's very well organized. Like, say, when the music plays, it's a live band. When the band plays, they serve, right? And every meal is a 4-course meal or a 5-course meal or an 8-course meal. So whenever the band plays, the meal is served, and when the band stops, and the band stops because the senior most person in the in the gathering has got the food served. The moment his food is served, the band stops. That means when he starts to eat, right?
Yeah.
That is the time he's giving, the band stops, giving an indication to people that everybody can start eating that course, right? And once, and and it's his job to give enough time for people to eat that course. And once he is giving that time, he'll close the plate. The moment he closes the plate, again the band starts. When the band starts, is the indication for the next course to come in, right? So they manage for 3,000 people at the same time, right?
Wow.
So all 3,000 people come for dinner or lunch or breakfast together. They have it together, and they peel off together. So that's the kind of organization that goes there.
Yeah. So it's sort of obviously when you go into India, you're fairly young. I mean, it's sort of the training is given to you, kind of like sets you on a path for your lifetime. And when you were a helicopter pilot, you were in disaster relief function at that time. And do you have any story, any recollection of what were some of the most dramatic things that you have done where you felt even you weren't sure if you would come out alive, maybe?
Yeah. So I think one of the, like I have to say, I think from 2001 till 2010, right?
Mm-hmm.
Across India, whatever disasters happened, I have participated in those, right? The one that, was the most, painful and, eventful disaster was in 2004 December when, I was posted in Andaman Nicobar Islands. So I was,
Mm-hmm.
there is a helicopter base in Nicobar group of islands. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
small island called Car Nicobar, whose the radius of the island is 5 kilometers, right? And there's a small airbase there, and we used to operate and we used to basically safeguard the Indian territorial waters so that nobody could come in through the sea, right? That was the job of that particular unit. And
Mm-hmm.
24th December 2004, right? 25th December 2004 night, tsunami
Yeah,
struck that island, right? And
right.
there was a massive earthquake before the tsunami, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that earthquake was like, the earthquake itself was close to 15 minutes, right? And
Wow.
when the earthquake started, right? And the previous night was Christmas night, so we had some party in some one of the officers' home, and
Mm-hmm.
we came back late night, and I was a bachelor then, I was not yet married, and early morning, it was around 4:45 p.m. or 4:45 a.m. or 5 a.m. around this time. The things started moving, right? And I thought that fellow bachelor friends were playing a prank on me by moving the bed and all, right?
Yeah,
So I just woke up, saw nobody around, and again I went back to sleep, right?
yeah,
And next time, it was even more,
yeah.
the frequency was much more higher. And then I saw nobody around, and then I realized that it's an earthquake. And I just
Mm-hmm.
jumped out of my window. I was on a ground floor, house. I just jumped out of my window, and
Uh-huh.
from my room, the sea was probably 25 meters. So my room was on the seashore, right? The officer's
Wow.
mess was on the seashore, right? And every day I
Mm-hmm.
used to sleep with the waves, sound of the waves, and if that was not there, then I used to miss something, right? So suddenly I saw that whole earthquake was happening for 15 minutes, and I saw things falling one by one in my room, right?
Yeah.
And after 15 minutes, right, it was so bad that it all stopped. The entire my room and the building collapsed. Right, there was nothing there. Right? I
Mm.
just looked back. Right, all this while I was looking at my room that one by one things are falling. Right, and once I looked back after the 15 minutes, there was
Mm.
no sea, which used to be 25 meters from my room. There was no sea. Right, and
Wow.
then basically what happened is the water receded due to the earthquake. Right, there was
Yeah.
some tectonic
Right.
shift and the water receded. Right,
Uh,
and the Nicobar group of island is a coral island, right? It's like
uh, yeah.
it's a white patch, that coral patch, and the water was not visible at all to the visible horizon, close to 7 nautical miles, that is 14 kilometers, right? And I was thinking, what happened, right? And then playing something in my mind that okay, the earthquake happened, and the plate must have shifted up, and the island must have gone above the sea level and all, right? And
Wow.
some of my other bachelor friends also came out of the room. We started discussing what must have happened now, right?
Mm.
And then while the discussion was on, then we saw a huge wall of something murky thing coming towards us at a very fast pace, right?
Mm.
And we realized that this is water coming at a very fast pace, right? And then I
Wow.
said that, boss, this is the speed at which it's coming, right?
Yeah.
Speed at which the water was coming, it was not going to stop at the normal place. So I said, I need to
Right.
run, right? So
Right.
I turned back and just ran upstream, uphill, right?
Uh,
Because every day when I
yeah.
go to office, I know that the airfield
Yeah.
is uphill, right? So I started
Uh-huh.
running towards the airfield. I ran, reached the airfield. So one of the technician told me, sir, the aircraft is ready. Do you want to fly? Right? Then I was very sure that the water is going to hit the island to save myself, and quickly got airborne, right? And once I got airborne, I saw that the island, right, was like close to the water came in.
Vijay, sorry we lost you.
So somehow the Wi-Fi is troubling, so I came next to the router and it's sitting here. So
Okay, good.
yeah,
So you were telling us that about how you got onto the helicopter and you started in the whole island, and then we lost you. Stuck with the
yeah.
whole island.
So the almost 2 kilometers inside, right, across all sides, the water came inside, and
Mm-hmm.
it was almost the depth of the water was almost a 40 feet, right? So 40 feet of the
Mm-hmm.
island got submerged, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, and that is the time I got a feeling that okay, there was some disturbance in the sea, and the water
Mm-hmm.
started overflowing, right? And then it
Mm-hmm.
was giving a feeling as if the island is sinking slowly, right? And
Right. Yeah.
I started giving SOS calls on high frequency radio that if any aircraft nearby is hearing us, they can transmit this to Chennai or
Mm-hmm.
anywhere else that the island is sinking at a rapid pace and some kind of relief effort or rescue effort is required here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And while I was doing that, I saw the water receding, right? It was all new, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was for the first time I'm seeing all this, right? And when
Right.
the water receded, right, it actually created so much of havoc that it was as good
Mm.
as, you shave, basically when you're shaving, right, the way
Yeah.
it completely polished off all the submerged area, right? Trees were uprooted,
Uh-huh.
buildings were taken off, and there was nothing left there, right? That kind of havoc it created,
Wow.
right? And
Wow.
I came down, like, and while I was telling that, all those things happened and the water receded, right? And then the
Mm-hmm.
next wave did not come so fast, right? So all these things were
Right.
happening at a frequency of 5 minutes, 7 minutes. I came down, I landed,
Mm.
and by the time I landed, right, I saw lots and lots of people running towards the airfield, right? Then I
Mm-hmm.
told them that do not worry, the water is receding now, it should be fine.
Mm.
While
Mm.
I was telling them this, the second wave came, right?
So,
And
okay, the second
and
ball was coming.
yes, and people could see that high this thing, right? And I was also
Yeah.
shocked, and again I got airborne, right? I got
Yeah.
airborne again, and that's the time I saw a lot of people were on treetops, building tops,
Yeah.
right? And I rescued, close to 253. I even lost the count, right? At every, my
Yeah.
aircraft, the aircraft which I used to fly could carry, 25 passengers, right? Who were, you
I
know,
see.
yeah, who were armed, right? With, assuming the weight of each person is 100 kgs, we can carry
Yeah.
25 passengers, right? So
Right. Yeah.
and every I used to take off and go to this building rooftops and all these things, and I was able to pick up 30 to 40 people in one shot, right, and drop
Mm.
them at
Mm.
the highest point in that island, right. And I continuously flew close to 3 hours till the endurance of the aircraft, and rescued
Mm-hmm.
close to 250 300 people, right,
Yeah.
and all these things I was, when I was sleeping, right, I was just in my boxers and
Yeah.
I ran without any barefoot. I ran and I flew the
Yeah.
helicopter completely barefoot, right? And,
Wow.
helicopter requires, you need to be stationary at a point, right? And when you're stationary
Right.
at a point, there are a lot of controls that go into, keeping the helicopter, hovering about a particular point, right? It used to
Mm-hmm.
like say since I was not wearing a shoe and I was pressing the rudder with some pressure,
Mm-hmm.
the blood circulation
Mm.
to my feet also stopped at some point in time, right? So I used to
Wow.
go get airborne again, just to give some
Uh,
kind of exercise to my feet so that the blood circulation
uh,
again resumes, and again I used to come down. So all these things
uh,
I did, and I think soon after this episode, right, not only I rescued the 300 people from the waves, but
mm,
I stayed on that island for another 7 days. We didn't have any
mm.
food, nothing. Close to we lost close to 40,000 people in that island, right? And
Wow.
there was no relief effort could reach us because the shipping lines or the jetty where the ship can come was also broken,
Mm.
right? The airfield
Yeah.
was with debris because the water had come till the airfield, and all these
Uh-huh.
uprooted trees and all those things covered the airfield, so no extended
Yeah.
aircraft could have landed. So 7 days
Mm.
we did a lot of work in terms of first clearing the airfield, then making sure that the leftover people, like close to 20,000 people, right, from the island were
Mm.
evacuated, right? Once they were evacuated, We looked into all the,
40,000 died and 20,000 evacuated.
yes. So 40,000 died in the sense there is no estimate. Like we don't know how many people died.
I know, actually, yeah.
What we have done is we have cremated
Right.
close to 40,000 people, right?
Yeah.
And that's how we know that okay, count is that much, right? So it was that kind of exercise. So came back to the mainland, and after 7 days, all of us were sent back to the mainland, and a fresh team had come to take over the relief operations because all of us we lost everything and there was nothing. We were all shocked by the deaths and all those things that happened, right? So we were sent back to the mainland, and and then Dr. Abdul Kalam called me to Rashtrapati Bhavan just to because I was the only person who saw this tsunami from from the ground zero, right? And exactly what is this thing. He called me to understand, what happened, right? And I even didn't know that whole thing was called tsunami, right? Somebody told me later on that such high tidal waves are termed as tsunami, right? And I went and described in the whole thing what happened, and that's how I was awarded Shaurya Chakra, which is third highest peacetime gallantry award for the efforts that I had done there.
Yeah. Vijay, it's very interesting. Like here, you've been through one thing which is unprecedented. It's like you look out the window, there's no ocean. I mean, it's like, it's just unbelievable, right? And then there's a disaster, and you were there in that position. And now, fast forward, 16 years, we are in another disaster where we don't know what hit us. I mean, there is no there is no guidebook to say act like this or whatever. So do you feel that whatever your training you had, all the disaster reliefs you have done, all this, etc., how has that prepared you to deal with this? And I mean, every company, that's my last question to you. Is every company, every one of us has to deal with this in in a way, whether it is cutting jobs or reducing pays or whatever. I mean, it's a dramatic change that everyone has to go through. So what is your advice or your insight to when you hit with something you can't expect?
So I
How
think,
do you deal with it?
yeah, so I think this is a silent enemy that all of us have seen, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and I keep telling everybody the same thing, right? We should, minimize our expectations, right? When I say minimize our expectations, all of us should go in isolation, right? And come out, right? It's for our own safety, right? Some of us, it requires various levels of safety. Like senior citizens require a very high level of safety. People who are slightly older, 40 to 50, requires a different level of safety. The young folks who are a little bit, aggressive and, like they are, they compromise a lot of stuff, right? What my, what my saying would be like, if you see at MyGate, right? I think the lockdown was implemented on from 22nd onwards, right? But we actually, from 6th of March, right, there was something troubling me about this whole thing, what was going on and all those things, right? And I was telling that we should get 100% work from home from tomorrow itself, right? But it took me time to explain to my co-founders and other leaders that this is something unprecedented. People are not preparing that, and they're not taking the right kind of steps, right? And then I had to put my foot down on 11th of March and tell my management that 13th March onwards everybody is going to work from home, and all the people, singles who are staying in the city, right, all of them need to go back to their parents, right? I was we anticipated that PGs and all these essentials will be stuck. We actually sent all MyGate staff, right, who are staying single, to their hometown, right, to their parents. We have sent and made sure that they go in the right way, and nobody is getting impacted because of this, right? So I think my experience in all this excited to getting prepared for all these kind of things, right? So that's I think is the thing, right? And what I say people is, you cannot fight this. The only thing you can do is maintain isolation to the extent possible, right? Minimize
Yeah.
the number of
Yeah.
interactions. If you want to go out, it is
Mm-hmm.
not that you want to go out for every meal you get your ration. You plan once in a month,
Correct.
once in a week, once in 15 days. It's an activity that needs to fulfill 10 or 15 steps. Do that and
Yeah.
follow that, protocol to the T and make sure that you don't get
Yeah.
it, right? There is
Yeah.
no other
Yeah.
this thing. Everybody is a warrior here. So people keep
Yeah.
asking me, right? Patriotism is only in the armed forces, guys. And, I think
Yeah.
this is the time all of us need to show patriotism. This is an opportunity for us
Yeah.
to show patriotism by just, maintaining the social distance and keeping ourselves
Right.
isolated and,
Right.
do whatever we can do from, not coming out too much, right? And
Correct. Correct.
minimize your needs. Do not, like say, when I
Right.
look at these online platforms, I feel
Yeah.
so, you know, that, people are selling exotic food on online platform even now. Just imagine the
Right.
amount of inputs that goes into an exotic food, right?
Correct.
How much of supply chain logistic that needs to go into this, and how many other people are on the road for it, right?
Correct.
It
Correct.
should
Yeah.
be simple. Our life should be simple for the next 6 months, right? To
Correct.
minimize the
Yeah.
impact,
Yeah.
or 2 months or three
Correct.
months, right? To minimize the impact.
Right. Correct. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vijay, for your time. And I just want to wrap up by saying that it's really wonderful to see. I mean, one thing I always say is that we are kept safe by a lot of people going out of their way to do a bunch of things that we don't even know. When you especially see border security forces, on a day-to-day basis, forget during war or anything of this, just on a day-to-day basis, how many people are keeping us safe? It's really, kind of a
Yeah.
awakening in a lot of ways. So on one hand, there is that side of you, and there is a transition into the business world, and it's really great to see that your training has stayed true to where you are as a leader today. And I think in some ways you guys are integrating all the things that are needed in a community. I always say it's physical distancing and more community coming together. As a community, we need to be there for each other, but while we maintain a physical distance. So it's great to have your company do the job of keeping the communities together and taking care of their needs. And may more millions join your community. And now I see why Sanjay and team called you to invest in your company. So congratulations for all the great work.
Yeah, I think the team MyGate is doing. I think we just started the company,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I think the team took over from third month of our existence. I think the team MyGate
Yeah.
has done a splendid job, and they continue to do that. Right. So
Yes. Yeah. So congratulations to your whole team wherever they are sitting and working today. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you so much for your time, Vijay. Thank you.
thanks.
Bye bye.